finished making tea now and I want to tell you a bit about Poland, but I've got to speak a little bit quietly because Charlie's in bed. The first and most significant thing, there's two really significant things that happened in Poland to do with the end of the Cold War. And the first one of note was that the new Pope was elected and he was Polish, and that was in I'm not sure when that was actually, but he came to Poland in 1979, soon after he was made Pope. And whilst he was there, he had to sort of negotiate with the Soviets to be allowed to go to Poland, but the Soviets felt they couldn't really ban him from going because of the outcry that would cause from all the Poles who wanted to meet the hero, this Polish guy who's risen to become Pope, which was very rare. Most of the popes ended up being Italian. Anyway, he promised not to openly criticise the communist regime, but what he actually did, sneakily, under the surface, is he said lots of things which did go against the communist regime without blatantly saying things which was against the communist regime. To give you one example, he said, "The exclusion of Christ from the history of man is an act against man." Now, the Soviets are atheists. They do not believe in God. They thought the theory of communism is all that the religion is the opium of the masses. It's just used to get the people through. So he's saying here, the fact that they've excluded Christ from the history of man is wrong against all of humanity. It's a blatant against the Soviet thing without clearly saying something against the Soviets. Whilst he was there, 1 in 4 of the entire Polish population came to see the Pope. The Soviets tried to play it down by on state television just showing really old people coming to see him as though they were the only ones interested. But in actual fact, every walk of life, anybody you possibly could, tried to get to see the Pope, which shows the strength of feeling in Poland, and that this person, in a state, by the way, that's supposed to be a communist country that doesn't believe in religion, that so many people want to see the Pope, just shows how the Polish people would never have been communist if they had the choice. One of the last things the Pope said before he left was, "Let your spirit descend," means Jesus or God or somebody up there anyway, "let your spirit descend and renew the face of this land. Amen." So he says, "Come down, God, change this land." Not long after the Pope left, in 1980, was the first big event which led to the creation of Solidarity, because in a place called Gdansk, there were strikes from factory workers upset about many different things, and it spread across the country. And they ended up with 250 factories not working, which was disastrous for the Polish economy, which was already in trouble, and it partly came as a result of the Polish government increasing meat prices by 100%. That would be the equivalent of your bacon costing let's say bacon, £2. Get some bacon for £2, it goes up 100%, suddenly having to buy your bacon for £20. That's all meat. So you can see why the Polish people were furious. But this is all because the Polish economy was really struggling. Anyway, the Soviet government saw this strike started in Gdansk, so they actually agreed to the many demands by the strikers in Gdansk. And they actually started to walk out of the strike to go back home as though it had finished. But one lady, you don't need to know this for your example, one lady got up and said, "Hey, if we agreed to all of this, the other 250 factories that have struck on our behalf, we've sold them out. They're going to be in so much big trouble." So they decided to stick together. Solidarity all together like that. And they did all stick together, and the striking became a bit of a political thing. Solidarity made demands to make striking legal, to end censorship, and many other political demands besides. And it was really embarrassing for the Soviets, because the Soviets, communism is supposed to be all representing the workers. It's called the Workers' Party, looking after the workers. And here are the workers in Poland rising up against the Workers' Party. Really embarrassing propaganda while. And the Soviets didn't actually military intervene because they thought they couldn't afford to, because of what was going on in Afghanistan, and also the fact that Polish economy was kind of propped up by the West and Western loans, and they knew that would all be withdrawn if they invaded. But they tried to intimidate the Poles into giving this up by doing military manoeuvres, between Soviet and East German troops all on the border of Poland. Didn't actually work, because Solidarity was such a huge movement they weren't going to give up. However, taking them completely by surprise, in 1981 Poland declared martial law. Solidarity was banned, the leader Walesa was arrested, and martial law was imposed for 2 years. But the damage was done. Poland and then the Solidarity movement had all started in 79 and 80, and yeah, they could put a lid on it for a little while, but as soon as they released this lid and let people have a say again, Solidarity would come right back, and it did.